In 1605, Miyamoto Musashi, a samurai who had made a name for himself as a swordsman at the young age of 21, was challenged to a duel. The challenger, a young man named Matashichiro, came from the Yoshioka family, a clan itself renowned for swordsmanship. Earlier that year, Musashi had defeated Matashichiro's father, Genzaemon, in a duel. Days later, he had killed Genzaemon's younger brother in another duel. The Yoshioka family wanted revenge. Sasha's friends smelled a trap in Matashichiro's challenge and offered to accompany him to the duel, but Musashi went alone. In his earlier fights with the Yoshiokas, he had angered them by showing up hours late. This time, though, he came early and hid in the trees. Matashichiro arrived with a small army. Musashi would arrive way behind schedule as usual, one of them said, but that trick won't work with us anymore. Confident in their ambush, Matashichiro's men lay down and hid in the grass. Suddenly Musashi leaped out from behind his tree and shouted, "I've been waiting long enough, draw your sword." In one swift stroke, he killed Matashichiro, then took a position at an angle to the other men. All of them jumped to their feet, but they were caught off guard and startled, and instead of surrounding him, they stood in a broken line. Musashi simply ran down the line, killing the dazed men one after another in a matter of seconds. Musashi's victory sealed his reputation as one of Japan's greatest swordsmen. He now roamed the country looking for suitable challenges. In one town he heard of an undefeated warrior named Bacon whose weapons were a sickle and a long chain with a steel ball at the end of it. Musashi wanted to see these weapons in action, but Bacon refused. The only way he could see them work, Bacon said, was by fighting a duel. Once again Musashi's friends chose the safe route. They urged him to walk away. No one had come close to defeating Bacon, whose weapons were unbeatable. Swinging his ball in the air to build up momentum, he would force his victim backward with a relentless charge, then hurl the ball at the man's face. His opponent would have to fend off the ball and chain, and while his sword arm was occupied, in that brief instant Bacon would slash him with the sickle across his neck. Ignoring the warnings of his friends, Musashi challenged Bacon and showed up at the man's tent with two swords, one long, one short. Bacon had never seen someone fight with two swords. Also, instead of letting Bacon charge him, Musashi charged first, pushing his foe back on his heels. Bacon hesitated to throw the ball, for Musashi could parry it with one sword and strike him with the other. As he looked for an opening, Musashi suddenly knocked him off balance with a blow of the short sword and then, in a split second, followed with a thrust of the long one, stabbing him through and killing the once undefeated Master Bacon. A few years later, Musashi heard about a great samurai named Sasaki Ganryu, who fought with a very long sword, a startlingly beautiful weapon, which seemed possessed of some warlike spirit. This fight would be Musashi's ultimate test. Ganryu accepted his challenge. The duel would take place on a little island near the samurai's home. On the morning of the duel, the island was packed. A fight between such warriors was unprecedented. Ganryu arrived on time, but Musashi was late, very late. An hour went by, then two. Ganryu was furious. Finally, a boat was spotted approaching the island. Its passenger was lying down, half asleep, it seemed, whittling at a long wooden oar. It was Musashi. He seemed lost in thought, staring into the clouds. When the boat came to shore, he tied a dirty towel around his head and jumped out of the boat, brandishing the long oar, longer than Ganryu's famous sword. This strange man had come to the biggest fight of his life with an oar for a sword and a towel for a headband. Ganryu called out angrily, "Are you so frightened of me that you have broken your promise to be here by 8? Musashi said nothing but stepped closer. Ganryu drew his magnificent sword and threw the sheath onto the sand. Musashi smiled, "Sasaki, you have just sealed your doom." "Me? Defeated? Impossible." "What victor on earth," replied Musashi, "would abandon his sheath to the sea?" This enigmatic remark only made Ganryu angrier. Then Musashi charged, aiming his sharpened or straight for his enemy's eyes. Ganryu quickly raised his sword and struck at Musashi's head but missed, only cutting the towel headband in two. He had never missed before. In almost the same instant, Musashi brought down his wooden sword, knocking Ganryu off his feet. The spectators gasped. As Ganryu struggled up, Musashi killed him with a blow to the head. Then, after bowing politely to the men officiating over the duel, he got back into the boat and left as calmly as he had arrived. From that moment on, Musashi was considered a swordsman without peer. Moral of the story: Miyamoto Musashi, author of the Book of Five Rings, won all his duels for one reason. In each instance he adapted his strategy to his opponent and to the circumstances of the moment. We should always adapt to the present situation and not be fooled by habits of our past. This helps us to be present in the moment and just about ready for anything. This also helps us to be realistic and see things for what they really are. Once our vision is clear, we can strategize, plan, and succeed.